But it's time now for a brief meditation and a channel from Kryon. And so we ask you to take a moment and just allow yourself to come into a quiet space. Relax all the tension out of your body. Relax your face, relax your shoulders, relax your arms and hands, relax your legs, relax your knees, your calves, your feet. And just feel the connection with the energy of the earth beneath you. And allow yourself to feel a warm embrace from all those who are sharing this experience with you. And we'll send out a wave of loving hugs to everyone that is gathered. And stand by for the first channeled message from Kryon for the Healing Wednesday of 2021.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I have said this before. There are so many who would ask, do those from the other side of the veil, whom I represent, are they truly aware of what humanity is going through? And the answer is more than you know. And the reason is this, because you have separated us so completely, made us something that is on high and you are on low. You have put a barrier, a wall, often between the creative source and yourself. You can see the barrier very clearly when you look at the protocols and the doctrines of the many spirituality groups and doctrines and religions on the planet. There is so much worship and bowing down to that which you see as so sacred, but you don't include it as being anything that you are as well. Dear ones, we have said it before, you are a piece of the Creator. And this is the truth. Perhaps it is the largest truth that we have ever spoken. And we have spoken it for 30 years. There's no separation. We are so aware of what you're going through because we are going through it with you. Indeed, you are never alone. Indeed, you are dearly loved. Indeed, there is something between us that is more than just a relationship. Inside you, at the cellular level, you might even say at the most smallest important pieces of you, even the DNA and smaller, are multidimensional pieces of the Creator itself, made in His image. You've heard that. The image is love. All of you are the image of love. I would like to talk today about one of four things. It's a series for this month. And I'm going to call it The Four Faces of Fear. Now, right away, there will be those who are listening to this broadcast and saying, well, wait a minute, I'm not a subscriber, and that's going to exclude me from the other messages, and that is not so. Listen up. I told my partner years ago that every single channeling I do should be free, and that there should be a method to make them free for the world. As many channels as possible, as many channels that are recorded should be given away, and they are. There is a place on my partner's website where you can go and hear everything that we have ever channeled. There is one channel for Healing Wednesday, and they will indeed go to this place. Eventually, you'll see them all. So do not feel excluded as I present number 1 of 4, because you can hear all 4 if you choose. The subject, the 4 faces of fear. I say faces because that's what you look at. I didn't say attributes because that gives it perhaps a little more emphasis. It's a face. What do you know about a face? Everything is a metaphor. Dear ones, do I have to tell you that again? Even in the channeling, even in the messages, even in the language you hear it, there are metaphors. I'll say many things that sound odd until you understand the metaphor. What do you know about a face? First of all, you recognize a face and you can see where a face is friendly or not. But every single face is changeable. You can smile, you can frown. The 4 faces of fear. Now, why would I talk about fear when we have the healing modalities that we present here, where the entire subject of the day is healing? Why would I talk about fear? It seems to be an opposite to healing. So I will tell you again, for all of these years, we have been saying these things, and now it comes to a head, a point, a focus. Here is the statement. You should hear it yet again. The opposite of healing is fear. If you are fearful, dear ones, nothing that is presented in any of these programs truly can get around that. That's the face that you have chosen for yourself. That particular face, dear ones, is a face that will interrupt almost anything that we can give you. We can't get past fear. You can't get past fear. It stops it all. Kryon, are you really saying that there's a barrier that even with good health and with good nutrition and all those things? Yes. That's what I'm telling you. Because true healing is done with a consciousness and not objects and not simply remedies. It has to do with your consciousness agreeing with what you're doing in order to send your body messages of hope and joy, compassion and healing. And if you're afraid, it all simply stops at that wall called fear. 4 faces. I want to talk about the first one. It's the 3D one. It's the duality one. It's the most basic one. And there will be those of you who say it can't change. This cannot change. Oh, yes, it can. Survival. You are born with the fears that accompany survival. Intuitively. Born, fear of the dark. Fear, by the way, that you might be eaten. Now you'll say, wait a minute, we're not going to be eaten. Really? Because that fear goes from the old days of being afraid of being eaten by the Bengal tiger to being eaten by your peers or your situation or those around you or your competition. Do you see where I'm going? It's the fear of being eaten by that which you cannot control. There's more. The fear that you will not then survive because you are not perhaps good enough. These are basic survival instincts, you might say. A psychologist will say, that's correct. You come in with them. Any mother knows this. How long does it take for you to understand that within the child that you have, that you're looking at and that you love so much, They're all the things you never taught them. There's jealousy and rage and competition and greed and all of those basic instincts, the immaturity, no elegance yet. It's all there, and you didn't ask anything to them or teach anything to them to get them in that modality. It just came with the package, didn't it? So you know I'm right. Now what I'm going to tell you this. Now we're going to talk about solutions. First of all, a statement. Even though these things are instinctual and you come in with them, they are programs. That's all they are. Call them engrams, if you wish. They are stamped upon your psyche, and they are not hardwired. There's a difference. There's not really much that's hardwired except how your body functions. Everything else, especially in the consciousness, is a program. You come in with a legacy of the energy of the planet that supersedes you. All that has happened with low and high consciousness and duality for eons is stamped upon you, and you come in afraid. That is a program. And like every program that you've heard on these shows, all the things, it can be rewritten. It is rewritable. Interesting. Why does it show itself the way it does? It's almost like what you see, dear ones, with oil and water. You might have a glass of water and a little oil on it, and the oil stays on top. Let's say you're looking at the glass of water, which is a metaphor here of your consciousness when you arrive on the planet, and there's the oil representing all the negative things that's on top. It's only a fraction of the fluid, of the majesty, the joy, the compassion that is underneath that oil that's just floating on top. You got to get through the oil. You got to scrape it off. You can rewrite it. But it floats on top, and that's the first thing that you experience, and you got to get through. I want to tell you a story. It's a story about a child. The child will remain nameless, a little girl. I want to tell you what she experienced and what she did, because this is a wise little girl. You might say that this little girl kind of knew how things worked and figured it out for herself. There was one night when she went to bed. And when she woke up in the middle of the night, for whatever reason, she looked over and she got chills, because in the chair that was in her room was a horrible creature. She could just make out almost every single shade of its face, of its body, and it was just looking at her, and it wasn't moving. It was just staring at her. She was so afraid. Afraid of the dark, afraid of what was in the dark, of course. All these instinctual things that she had. Her mom came into the room because she was whimpering, turned on the light, and she realized that the monster was a clump of used clothing that she had simply put in the chair. That her imagination and her fear had created all of the things that she was certain of that were going to leap out of the chair and eat her, or worse. And all of these things she realized were there. When her mother turned off the light, interestingly enough, the monster returned in her mind, and she realized that this was something that was going to happen over and over. It was impossible for her to rewrite this. It was instinctual. And what she did, I want you to listen carefully. She created an angel. Whether it was a clump of clothes or whether it's something she hung by the door that superseded anything that was dark. And when she went to sleep and when the light was off, she could look at that and say, "Dear angel," and she gave it a name. "Let nothing inappropriate be presented to me tonight in either my dreams or my room, because I'm protected. What a wise little girl. How about you? That was all a metaphor, and that was about a child. How about you right now? Can you create something that says, I am magnificent, and there is nothing that has come in that is more powerful than my magnificence, nothing that has come in with my birth that I would call fear of darkness or any of the phobias. It's all rewritable. And I am rewriting it because my magnificence will shine through anything dark. Does that work? Oh, yes. Just like the little girl. It works so well because you are creating you. Rewriting the things that are inappropriate, that have come in, that do not reflect you at all. Don't reflect your magnificence at all. That's just the beginning of what you can do. As I describe the other three fears, you're going to find a similarity of solution in every single one of them. But they are all in your control. That's the magnificent human that I know. And so it is.
So, Lee, I think it's time to move into a meditation and a channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. I invite you to close your eyes. Allow yourself to shift your awareness to your body. What is happening within your body in this moment? Are you settled? Are you comfortable? Are you aware that you are in a very safe place? Within this safe place, you are joined by thousands of ancestors, of the ones you've loved and lost, who are hovering around with you always, actually, not just in this moment, but perhaps in this moment is when we bring our awareness that they are here. Just like Kryon is always here. And in this moment, we now hear the message from Kryon through the voice of Lee.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. We always anticipate a beautiful energy. It comes with that which we call channeling. And it's not a mystery to my partner. It was the first thing he felt that literally made the difference of the reality of whether he was doing something correct or incorrect when he started to channel. My partner had no metaphysical background, none whatsoever. So the idea to this engineer and right-brain man of sitting in a chair and channeling was the last thing that he wanted to do. But what convinced him was that which is the love, the feeling that went with it, that he realized could be projected, even long distance, like we're doing now. Indeed, it is a safe place for you to sit and to listen. And in these times, I'm giving you, especially this month, a series. And the series is about fear. And this particular channel, the second one about fear, is going to be very esoteric. In fact, it might not even be a fear you know is there. We'll talk about that in a moment. You might wonder, does the channeler see things while he channels? The answer is no. He feels energy, and the feeling of the energy literally projects an intuitive sight. Now, this is a difficult concept. Imagine shutting your eyes and having a vision. Are you seeing or not? Perhaps it's your mind's eye. It's the kind of thing we do and will do later in the Circle of 12. There is a lot more to seeing than sight. So the answer to the question is that my partner sees things and feels things while he channels that we wish to project to him. And all of the things that he sees or feels in the visions he has while he channels, even right now, is the benevolence of the Creator. The love between the souls that you think perhaps are not even there. The connection between you and another one, and another one, and another one. My partner sees a wholeness that is not obvious to any of you. The wholeness of many souls coming together as one, even though they don't understand it or realize it. The Circle of 12 starts to become more like a family. But what he sees right now is the fact that most of you, listening right now and watching in this program right now are old souls. The channeling portion of the Circle of 12 is distributed later for free. As I've told my partner many times, the channelings should all be for free and available to the world. This is no exception. And so there will be those later who will listen to this that may or may not have the attributes of those who are listening live at the moment. Because those who are listening to the Circle of 12 have given intent to be here because they're interested. And in that interest, I tell you, it means you're an old soul. Kryon, define an old soul for us. It's an easy concept. You've been here before many times. An old soul is one who has been here again and again and again and again. We speak of past lives. We speak of the cycle of life and that which we have called expressions before. Your soul comes in many times. It acts out, you might say, various parts on the earth, so it collects wisdom, many roles, many races. You experience great things. You experience perhaps challenging things. But in the end, as you watch me today, old soul, you have inside you a collection of wisdom based on who you've been, where you've been, and how long you've been here. You may not feel that all of that wisdom collectively lays upon you, but it does. Part of the 2012 energy is that which is discovery. Discovering more of who you are. I've said it before, you open a door and you find that which you always were that you didn't know. You open a door and find that you are much larger than you thought, in a very good way, that there is a spiritual attribute, not a religious attribute, a spiritual attribute in every cell, that you're part of creation. You're part of all that is on the earth. There is no separation between you and the rocks, the trees, the flowers, the insects, and the animals. That you are part of a family of life, much more magnificent. That there are tools for you, should you awaken to this truth. And the tools are longer life, healing your body, safety, the erasing of fear from your body, getting rid of the anxiety of the things that bother you, that make you wake up in the middle of the night. I'm telling you the truth. The fear that I'm going to tell you about, obscure it is, exceptionally real it is. It's the fear of enlightenment. I have spoken of this many times. If you have not heard it before, let me give you the scenario. Old soul, you have been here so many times. And because you're an old soul, you have graduated, perhaps many, many eons ago, into wisdom. You have started to ask the questions that are only being asked right now by many. You awakened to a grander truth, perhaps lifetimes ago. The grander truth: is there more than I've been told about my spirituality or about the creative source, which you call God? Is there more than I've been told? Am I part of it? Can I participate in it in beautiful ways? And as soon as you opened your mouth and asked that question to anybody but yourself in a very old energy, lifetimes ago, you were persecuted for it. Some of the things that you do every single day in your meditations and your expectations would have had you burned at the stake many lifetimes ago. What I'm going to tell you next is that some of you suffered because you awakened to a grander truth. Many of you suffered, both genders. If you decided to even question that which you were told might not be the truth, maybe there was more to it, you know what I'm talking about. Things did not go well for you. These are the attributes, the imprints, the programs that you carry. For some, you may be a magnificent old soul, one who has participated all the way back to Lemuria, and yet you'd never watch a program like this. You're what I call a closet light worker, and you're not going to come out because there's something in you that sounds an alarm every single time the choice is there. Is there more than I was taught? Should I believe this? I'd like to look at all of the astrology aspects that are happening in January, and some of them are amazing. I'd like to look at all the aspects, again, that happened December, because some of them were amazing. I'd like to learn more about what they meant. You say that casually, and someone will nod their head. This sounds good. Those very things would be imprisonable. So you don't do them. You don't even come close. You don't want to even look. Somebody hands you a metaphysical book, no thank you. Even though you have all the tools and the equipment and you actually know more than you're telling anyone. Fear of enlightenment keeps you from this information. I'll tell you something. Many of you watching this program right now are married to them. Those who would not want to participate in this program, wonderful human beings, that's why you married them. And you could see in them the beauty of God. But they won't participate in anything you're interested in. That is a closet light worker. Fear of enlightenment keeps even those who are aware of the old soulness, it keeps you away from completing even the circle of 12. You go to the mist and you don't want to go further. And there are many. Or you go to the mist and you say, okay, I'll go, and you fall asleep. This is your body saying, old soul, well, I've been there. It might be dangerous. I will just sleep through it. This is why I have said many times in the circle of 12, at that point that you go across the bridge, stay awake and give affirmations. This is safe. This is for me. I want to know more about myself. There's no danger here. And there is not. There's only love. It's interesting what people are afraid of, or perhaps what you've been told to be afraid of by others who don't know what you're doing. Going across the bridge, well, they're going to capture your soul, you know. You probably have heard that. Well, if you do what you're told, it's some kind of a cult, a sect, and you're going to be then captured and part of something you don't want to, and it's mind control. You've heard that? It's exactly the opposite. When you go into that mist, it's expansive. You get to see more than you've ever seen before. You get to know more about yourself than you ever knew was possible. You get to see the grandeur, the magnificence. You start to drop the fear, and you come back better balanced. And that is the key. People should see this within you, dear ones, that the more time you spend learning about yourself, the more you relax into your culture, into your family, into yourself, to the point where others in your family would come to you and say, I don't know what you're into, but I like it. Because they see you relax in so many different ways. That's what happens when you cross in to that place. But there are so many who are afraid. The fear of enlightenment will keep people from experiencing the beauty of who they are. Now, this is where we say how to get out of that fear. It's not needed for you to change any more than you want to. And this is important, dear ones. You have free choice. Honor your own feelings. Some of you may want to know more. Some of you may want to even share this information with those you believe really are closet light workers, so that they understand a little more. The invitation is there, but there are no shoulds here. We just tell you this so you could recognize it in yourself and say, aha, I knew it. There's something keeping me from that next step. Not anymore. You could even say these words. All of these memories are gone. They're not pertinent today. They're not magnificent for me today. And so they will no longer control my life. Simple. That's the power of the old soul. And so it is.
Well, staying on track, it's about time now to have a brief meditation and a channel from Kryon. So I'd like to invite you to close your eyes and release all the tension from your body. Allow yourself to soften, all the muscles softening, becoming so soft. And feel how you are supported wherever you are sitting or standing, or perhaps even lying down. You are being supported. It is the earth that carries us, that supports us. And yet, there is an entire entourage of multi-dimensional beings that are supporting us. They are here for us. And as part of that support for us here in this journey, we also have beautiful, loving messages that are delivered through Lee, coming to us from an entourage called Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I greet the members, all of you, and ask you this: is this something you look forward to? I would hope the answer would be yes, because you're here on purpose to watch this. Have you ever wondered if those on the other side of the veil feel the same? I will tell you this. There are those who stand in line on the other side of the veil, figuratively, to be here with you now. The channeling is like an opening in the veil. Some of you are now realizing it's an opening where love can pour through. Because you are receptive to it, because you are here, because you are watching and listening. There will be those later who will also hear this, who are not part of the membership or the Circle of 12. As we have said before, all of the channelings will become available and are available for everyone on the planet. But I want to talk to those of you who are part of the circle and are here for this private time and for the meditation to come. We look forward to this. It's a different perceptive feeling, a perception that you might not have had before. That literally, we are here to see you. This has been the experience of my partner for all of the channelings he has ever done. The long ones and the short ones. That when he sits in the chair and the greetings begin, he feels the sense of relief and release, that the door is open between us, you and I, between the worlds, so that the love will pour in, the instructions, the wisdom that you're allowing at this time. We've been talking about the 4 faces of fear. I have the third one for you. They're all slightly different, and they all emanate from different places. We've told you also, for those of you who have probably just listening to this one, that these fear faces stop healing. This is a healing program. We speak about your willingness to see and hear, absorb, and cognize what the healers are telling you. It's a tough one if you're always afraid. There are many who would tune into this program or become part of the series as members because they're trying to eliminate fear. That is the program, dear ones, and you're welcome to be here. If that is how you feel, you're not alone. This is something that we want to share with you. The solutions to getting out of fear. Almost all the time, the solution is to get out of fear is recognizing what they are. The reasons for them often dismiss them. It's almost like finding something that you didn't understand, and finally the light is turned on when you say, "Oh, is that all it is? I thought there was more to be afraid of." That is a dismissal then of that particular fear. Once you shine light on what it is you're afraid of, then it's far easier to make up your mind whether to continue to be afraid. Mark this moment, because there are those who say you shouldn't be afraid, and they'll tell you why. It doesn't do any good. It just doesn't, and you know it doesn't. If you're sitting there and you're apprehensive about something and someone comes to you and say, "Don't be afraid. Look, I'm not afraid," that doesn't help. The truth is this: you must cognize it for yourself. Why it's there? Is it something you should be afraid of? Or, as they say, is it a paper tiger? Is it something that, "Oh, I understand"? So it's you seeing what's there with your mind, with your perception, that starts to dismiss these things. The third set of fears we're going to call the ones you create in real time. Now, when I say you create them, you don't instigate them. You cognize things as fearful, and you write your own program. So these would be fears that are written not in the past, not from the survival, not from anything but your life after you get here. What would they be? They would represent most of the fears you have. The society you live in is one society that has parameters and rules, and you may fear that you're not going to make it in that society based upon what people tell you. Many of these kinds of fears, these real-time fears, that is, the ones that you put on yourself while you're here, are self-imposed. You decide that it's a fearful thing. Let me review with you something. How do you find out what's happening around you? What is the method you have to find out what is going on in your city, in your neighborhood, in your country? And the answer is the news. This is fear number one that you place upon yourself. You watch the news. You listen to the news. You read the news. You are aware, are you not? In this culture, in this day and age, at this moment, the news is entertainment. And they must present something to you that you will watch, because the commercials that they show between the watching pays their salaries. Therefore, they will put the things that are most attractive to humans, which is the things that are dark. There may be a dark thing that happens on the planet. There always are those things, but they will not then give you any of the good parts. And there are always good parts. What's happening regarding a situation? The virus is a good example. We've said this before. It is not controversial because many are starting to see it and tune out of the news, not watching it anymore. They're showing you the infection rate, the death rate, and seldom, if ever, do they talk about the heroes, the recovered rate. And so they paint a picture that frightens you. And they go on to the next thing, and it frightens you. And if they've done their job well, they'll frighten you a lot. So you'll come back and watch some other frightening things. What's the solution to that? That is something that is self-made. You choose to tune in, knowing these things, and they go into your psyche, and they stay there. We've told you before, there's no delete key. We've told those who want to be released from this, but also want to know what's happening, to be selective in your news, how you get it. Whether you would get it perhaps in places you trust, and read it instead of having it presented as an entertainment program visually. And that helps a lot of people. There are those who simply have stopped watching it, or will have a news day once a week. They'll catch up in their own way of what they should know, and it has caused so much more peace. How many of you fear the virus? The virus is not something to be feared, dear ones. It's something to be understood. How many of you done research around the virus instead of simply listening to the mandates in the news? There is a big difference. One will create fear. One creates understanding. When you say, oh, here is what I'm doing. Here's how long. Here are the expectations. And that, my dear human being, creates peace over something that others are fearing. It's not the plague. There are so many things that you have been told that literally create fear without understanding and without knowledge. This is controversial. What do your spiritual leaders tell you? Are you doomed? Were you born dirty? Were you really born dirty? Is it possible that the loving God that loves you beyond measure, that you were created in the image of the Creator, is it possible that that Creator is watching you carefully so that if you don't behave, that same Creator can then take your soul and torture it forever after you're dead? Burn you alive every single day, perhaps tear your skin off. You say, well, Kryon, where did you get those visualizations? I got those visualizations from my partner, who saw them painted clearly on the walls of churches inside. Torture. How does that feel to place that upon yourself, to believe it, and to carry it around? You're doomed. These are the kinds of fears We are inviting you to understand and undo and rewrite. And you can. Almost everything you're afraid of, at some point where you can sit down and look at them, is rewritable by understanding, perhaps by affirmations to undo something that is put into your subconscious. All of them are rewritable. And the biggest ones that you have on this planet are the ones you put upon yourself, because either you've done it yourself or others are helping you to fear. How many of you have been told this is going to happen, that's going to happen, beware of this, beware of that? There are things coming that people have said, well, watch out for that when it gets here. Is that your life? Are you afraid of the future? Are you afraid of your culture? That is to say, you won't do this right or that right, or you don't know how long your job is going to last. Do you understand? All of these things are emotions that you create by yourself. Now, we've told you this before. You live in an energy that supports these dark kinds of energies at this point. They won't always. This is what's clearing on the planet. There'll come a time when fear will not be the number one energy that captures you. That's coming. But right now, to rewrite these things and understand them starts to dismiss them. And you find protocols for yourself so that when you hear somebody tell you something, you don't simply cognize it, say, yes, you're right. You start to analyze it and you say, I wonder if that's so. Here's the big one before we close. Made in the image of the Creator, filled with love and compassion, those are the tools. That's who you are. That's who you are. You are not here as a victim. You are not here to fear. You're here to clear that board with peace and safety and know you're smart enough to see the difference between that which is not so and that which is. And what is so is the fact that you have the right, the lineage, the tools, and all of those things to clear it all, to rewrite it and move into a future that you create, which is safe because of your magnificence. Did you get that? You're not a victim of things to come. You control it all by having intuition of where to go and what to do. We have taught these things to you over and over and over. I want you to sit tall and understand truly what you can do. It's a safe place where you are. And so it is.
Let's focus on receiving. I give myself permission to receive. I am willing to receive. I allow myself to receive infinite blessings that are constantly coming my way. I graciously receive the beautiful gifts that I am given, and my gratitude allows me to share this gift with others. And the more I allow myself to receive, the more I am able to give. And with great gratitude, we will now receive not just the message from Kryon, but the deep love and honoring that Kryon has for you.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the fourth and final channel that we will discuss the faces of fear. Again, let me say I am aware that this is given today for those who are part of the Circle of 12, a closed membership that you have elected to be in. But the channel itself is available later for all of those who wish to hear the message. We will not confine or close important information and messages to a few. This has been the way of it and will continue to be. So if you have come across this message and you're finding that it's 4 of 4 and you want to know where the other 3 are, they're right where you found this one. If it is not, it's easily discoverable because they've all been recorded and presented. We speak of fear, and we have for many, many years. This one in particular, I have saved till last. It is probably the most complex and also one of the most controversial. Because there will be those who say, I don't believe that's where the fear came from. I have to tell you a story. As you sit there, listening, watching, your mind, your consciousness, your soul, all that makes up you is more than you. There is a tremendous influence of your lineage. It is all through your body. If you look at it chemically alone, you have that which scientists understand is inheritance. You would inherit perhaps certain traits from your parents through the bloodline, through the combination that creates your DNA. And it goes back quite a far piece. Grandparents, the ones before that, all of that is in there. And some of you will look at it and say, that is why my fingers look the way they do, or my face looks, or my hair. And you will start to say, and that is the end of it. It is not. Because there is also consciousness, talents, things that have happened that influenced the ancestors' lives that you carry. Is it possible, for instance, that you had a great-great-grandmother, or perhaps even further, and there were issues with that woman regarding childbirth, something that is very important to a woman? Is it possible that it could be then carried and carried and carried and carried, and what you then end up with in your life is the same issue? Because you might say there's a residual because it was such a big issue. Now that's chemistry. First of all, the answer to that question is yes. You are a combination of all of them. And not that you have all of their traits or their fears or their talents. You have the ones that were passed that had the most influence and perhaps were the highest perceived ones that they had. It's in there, all of it. Sometimes it doesn't show itself until certain other things happen, and then you even surprise yourself. Like finding, for instance, you were talented to do something you'd never tried. And then later you find a great-grandmother who was also talented in the same thing. But again, that is chemistry. Now let's put upon this the controversial one, past lives. Is it possible that your own soul's journey through the civilizations of the planet carry things also that have happened in the past that you've carried right up to this, you now and your future? This goes to perhaps many times you might have been a sailor, And then you awaken now and you realize you still want to be a sailor. This is mostly for the men. This happens constantly. And you'll find it even today under the guise that policemen, and firemen, and they even live together. And you'll say, well, my dad did it, so I'm doing it. What if it was inbred in you for past lives because 2 or 3 lives ago you were also doing it? And so it was absolutely natural for you. Now that is something that you want to do because you say that it's in your blood, but what if you've done it in the past? Turn the corner. What if you had in your immediate past life a drowning? And today you find yourself not wanting to be even near water. Dear ones, these are fears based upon the past. These fears are exceptionally real. They keep you from doing things that you might really want to do. And these things that they keep you from doing might be wonderful things. Sometimes you're kept from having a partnership that works. Because sometime in some past life, you learned something that is a process or an attribute that you carry in that makes it so partnering is difficult. There are some who have made up their minds that they want to have 100 children because that's all they've ever wanted to do. Perhaps it's because in the last 2 or 3 lives, they couldn't have any. Perhaps you come in and say, I really don't want children. Maybe you had a lot of them in the past lives. So you see, it's not all fear, but there are influences. But the fears and the face of fear, the one we talk about right now, is the one that would be fear from past experiences of either yourself or your ancestors that are carried into your own psyche today. We have spoken of this in channel after channel. And you might say, all right, I know this is true. I don't know what fears I have, but in retrospect, you're right, Kryon, because there are things that I shy away from doing. I don't like confrontation. And there are others, by the way, who love it. You might say, well, there are certain kinds of things I will and will not do. And you say, and I never understood what the hesitation was. This is why. These are, you might call them imprints from the past. What I want to tell you is that you all have them. I want to, again, diverse. If you're a mother and you have more than one child, especially let us say they are the same gender. Let's say you have 2 boys, same parents, maybe they're even close, you're the same mother and the father, the 2 boys, maybe they're close together in age, and they're vastly different. And you might say, how does that occur? One is afraid of their shadow and the other one is an achiever. And you go, they're from the same gene pool, my husband and I. Dear ones, you're taking a look at the variety of the imprints from the ancestors and their own past lives. They are trying now to make up for certain things that didn't happen or relax for certain things that did before. They're still learning. This is I would say, a catalyst for you to understand some of the fears you have that are not understandable otherwise. I have said this before, and I will say it again. Every imprint that you have, like this one, based upon your ancestry, based upon your past life, or your bloodline, every single one of them is rewritable. There is nothing set in stone. It is simply a starting place. Just a starting place. It's an invitation for you to discover what they are, analyze them for what they are, and then change them. Not only that, it's a platform for awakening to things you didn't know you had. My partner, in his 40s, came upon that which is today the Kryon. My partner had no speaking experience, was afraid of crowds, did not necessarily ever want to stand on stage. The man was afraid, and the afraid was acceptance. Like so many of you who do not want to do public speaking, when all the eyes are on you, it is not a comfortable feeling foremost. For some, they crave it. And when he went to me and he said, "What am I going to do about this fear? I am afraid, Kryon, to be in front of people. I lose my place. I stammer. I stutter. I can't think of what I'm doing. I'm not relaxed, and people see it immediately, and that the message is not a good one because of that." And so I told him, and he has told many of this story. I said, "I want you to go back into Greece. Were you an orator on stage? And people sat and listened to your poetry. They loved the wisdom that you had and the phrases that you used. Go back and mine that, like a miner goes and digs in the ground for the golden nugget. That's the golden nugget that is in your past that you can now pull forward to your present." Do you see how this might work both ways? You might have fears that crop up from a past life, and you may have other lives that are past where it was all mitigated and was all beautiful. That is what he did. The result is what you see, is that he can step on a stage with thousands looking at him and be completely and totally relaxed. This took a while, but each time he stepped out, he said, "I am the orator," and then he would go on stage. It was him. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't role-playing, because it belonged to him. All of the things that you have experienced in your past lives are still you in a certain way. It allows for you then to rewrite them, to unscramble the puzzle, and to work with the things that might bother you. But in addition, remember, there's also talents and revelation. I have said this to you before, and I'll say it again, that your awakening to these truths today will mean that when you are reborn, after you pass through the veil and after you go through all of this lifetime, when you return, this awakening today will stay with you. You'd never have to do it again. That's part of the new energy. Oh, there's so much more. I need to give a channel yet again of the attributes of the new energy that change absolutely everything you think you knew, especially about past lives and future lives. There is so much hope. Remember this. What you learn today, you'll remember next time. What have you learned today? Do not fear the past. It has no control over you. Not really. And so it is.